you're looking at moving to Boise, Idaho, but you want to know the top 5 pros and cons before you make the move here. I moved to Boise, Idaho from San Diego, California, so I come without outsider's perspective of someone that has not grown up and lived in Idaho their entire life. In fact, I was a 3rd generation San Diegan, have spent virtually my whole life in Southern California. And so I come with that unique perspective of someone that came from California, that outsider perspective, and what it's really like to actually make the move here. What really are those pros and cons? How bad are the cons? How great are the pros from someone that moved from California with my family? Absolutely love living here overall. So we're gonna dive into the top pros and cons. We're actually gonna start with one of the cons. Let's just get them out of the way right up front. Traffic congestion is one of the #1 cons of moving here. Now, it's not gonna be anything like what you're used to if you're coming from California or another major city. But there really has been a huge influx and just major population growth in the last few years, especially during 2020 through early 2023 with the COVID restrictions that were happening in California. A lot of people really saw the freedoms in Idaho and flocked here, along with other states, of course, too, like Texas, Florida, and Tennessee. And that's caused some strain on the traffic system here. I was just speaking with someone yesterday who has lived in Idaho for 18 years. They both came from California, and they were complaining about the amount of traffic that has grown over the years. Now, they live rather out on the outskirts, quite a far way out of Boise, but he works in Boise. And it did take him about an hour to get into town. He said normally with no traffic at all, it would have taken him probably closer to 35 minutes. So normally it's taken him about 45 minutes to get into Boise, but again, he's very much on the outskirts. But it's just an illustration of how the traffic congestion has increased. There are a lot of 2-lane country roads here. If you time it wrong during rush hour, you can sit at stop signs for a while, sit at roundabouts for a while, or just hit major congestion, even on the main city streets in Boise or in Meridian and Eagle, like Meridian Road, Eagle Road, Highway 55. There's just a lot more congestion, a lot more people that live and work and go to school, have their kids go to school in these areas. So you just kind of have to time it right if you can and try to avoid some of the rush hour. Again, overall, it's not going to be like anything you're probably used to, especially if you come from Southern California, where you could be commuting a couple hours each way just driving to work. So that's gonna be your #1 con. Let's jump into a pro, which is outdoor activities. That is what Idaho is known for. A lot of tourism for outdoor activities. Personally, we really love camping. We have a camper trailer that we bought and renovated, and we love going camping with our kids. I've camped my entire life. And what I love about Idaho is that we're just a couple hours from absolutely gorgeous, beautiful mountains. We live down in Nampa, and so it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours to get into these local mountains that look like the Sierras from what I used to, you know, maybe not quite, but close. And a little bit further, you get into the Sawtooth Mountains, which are absolutely gorgeous. So just a short drive away, amazing camping that is hard to find in California without a much longer drive. So we love camping. We also love floating the Boise River during the summer. It does get hot, which I'm going to touch on in a second. And we love floating on the Boise River to beat the heat. And it's just so relaxing. It's safe. Early part of the season, water flows a bit quick, maybe not great for young children at that time. Later part in the season when the water is lower and not flowing as quickly, perfectly safe, as long as you use certain precautions, of course. So a lot of outdoor activities. And then there's just so many other things that you can participate in: whitewater rafting, fishing, hunting, and of course, skiing. Winter sports is huge here. And a lot of people love skiing and snowboarding. You got Bogus Basin, just about 45 minutes out of Boise itself, hour and a half, depending on where you are in the Treasure Valley, very close. A lot of people will actually take off work in the morning, go hit the slopes for a couple hours, and then come back down and either kick it or finish up the workday because it really is that close. Let's touch on another con. I touched about the heat. So we do have 4 seasons here in Idaho, so the weather can be a bit extreme if you're coming from a place like California where it's very temperate overall. Certainly it can get hot in the summer, can get very cold in the winter, and it really can vary year to year. The first year that I moved here, it was very hot in the summer. A lot of days over 100 degrees, probably about, 4 to 6 weeks or so. It was very warm, very hot. And so that's where we had to do things like go to the river and cool off. For the kids, we've got splash pads that helps them cool off. You can run through them as an adult too and play in the splash pads and cool off. And of course, there's really great air conditioning and very low energy bills overall. So you can actually run the AC, unlike California. So it does get a bit hot. It can get very cold in the winter also. You could have many days that are below freezing and into the teens or even single digits at night. And then the snow levels can vary quite a bit too. There could be a fair amount of snow. Generally speaking, you're only gonna get about 1 to 2 inches at a time. You're not gonna get feet and feet of snow. but it can snow 1 to 2 inches, and it could snow 12, 15, 20 times over the course of a winter. But if you have four-wheel drive vehicles, all-wheel drive vehicles, you're going to be perfectly fine getting through that. They do keep the main roads very clear. The subdivision roads are what tend not to be cleared, but you're driving at very low speeds, so you can get through those, hit the main roads, and then you're fine. But it's just going to vary year to year as far as heat and temperature. This past year, the summer was much more temperate, only a couple days over 100. Most of the time it was in the 80s and 90s. And then so far this winter, technically fall, but last year it felt like winter at this time, has been much more temperate as well. A lot of days in the 40s and 50s, a little bit of rain, a lot of sun still. So it's just really gonna vary. Let's hit on another pro, and that's a big reason why you're probably looking at moving to Idaho, and that is how conservative the state is. A lot of people are worried about Californians in particular, and people from blue states moving in here and really changing the local politics. Now, has that happened? I believe that has happened a bit in the past. The city of Boise itself is fairly liberal. Outside of it is very, very conservative. The last election cycle last year, it actually shifted about 5 points more conservative with the inflow of people that are moving here for conservative values. So if you're concerned about the state shifting purple, like what's been happening in Texas and Tennessee, less of a concern happening here in Idaho. It's still overall a very conservative state. The third con is going to be wildfire seasons. It's actually a question I get a lot from folks that are looking to move here is how bad are the wildfires? How bad is the smoke? And again, that can vary year to year quite a bit, just like the heat, just like the cold. So some years you can get a lot of smoke that is blowing in from the local mountains, from Oregon, blowing in all the way from California as well. And it can get trapped in the valley here, and it can cause sporting events to get canceled. It can be difficult to go outside at times. The past couple years, it really has not been bad. So we'll just have to see what this next fire season looks like. Obviously, there was tons of fires in Canada recently. It was blowing all over the country, especially into New York, if you recall that. We didn't really get any of that at all. So it's just gonna vary year to year, but that certainly is a concern that people ask me about. Let's hit another pro, and that is how family-friendly Idaho is. That is really a huge reason why we moved here and why we love living here. When we were in California, my wife would often get comments about us having 3 kids and her hands being really full. And it was always kind of negative, like, why the heck do you got 3 kids? Here we'll get a similar comment, but it's always very positive in the tonality of it. And people are much more helpful, and they think it's wonderful that we have 3 kids. A lot of families that we know have 3, 4, 5 children, and it's a very family-friendly state. In fact, Idaho actually gained children over this past year. I think it was by around 2 or 3% overall, whereas a state like California lost children. The only way that California can continue growing is through immigration from foreign countries, whereas Idaho is growing through immigration from other states, but also the internal birth rate. Frankly, it's a recipe for disaster when you have a negative child population growth that's happening in California. So Idaho's being really set up for a lot of growth in the future, and we absolutely love all the family-friendly activities all throughout the valley. Splash pads all over the place, wonderful parks, great schools. We absolutely love living here because of just how family friendly it is. Number 4 con is going to be the inversion. Again, I get asked about this a lot. The inversion is basically a warm pocket of air that sits over a cold pocket and kind of traps the air in, and it can be very cloudy, not a lot of sun at all for days or a couple weeks. So that's where you're not going to see the sun for a while. Does it happen every single year? No, it doesn't happen every single year. Again, that's going to vary year to year. So there's a lot of variety that you're going to get in the weather. But if that happens, you want to really try to make sure that you get outside as much as you can and consider traveling as well. Plan your vacations in the winter so you can go and see the sun versus just being in that inversion for a couple weeks. Number 4 pro is just how safe that it is here. It's a big reason why people move to Idaho, fleeing the high crime that's happening in the big cities around the country. And depending on the city that you're in, it's going to be overall safer than probably where you're coming from. Boise, it's very safe. Nampa, Caldwell, very safe cities, but the cities like Meridian, Eagle, Kuna, Star, Middleton, extremely safe. If you look at the crime statistics, their level of safety is something between 75 to 90% safer than the average city around the US. People do ask me a lot about the crime, specifically in Caldwell, Nampa. There is some crime, of course. There's crime everywhere. It's just a matter of what your risk tolerance is. You're never 100% safe, even if you live in a gated community. That being said, there is more crime that occurs in Caldwell, but overall, we find that it's pretty safe. We go there regularly to the Indian Creek Plaza Absolutely love it. We find it's very safe, that we're never concerned for our safety at all. There's certain areas we wouldn't want to live or spend a lot of time in Nampa and Caldwell. We live in South Nampa on the edge of farming community, and we really enjoy living here. Brand new community. It's super safe. There's days where I forget to close my garage door. Shouldn't do that, but it happens, and I don't really freak out about it. Number 5 con is going to be low wages relative to overall costs here in Idaho. The average wage here is about $55,000 to $60,000. So with the influx of people that have moved here, it has gotten more expensive. It has gotten harder on the local population here as well. And that's where some of that bitterness does come in from people moving here from out of state and driving up housing prices like has happened. Now, housing prices have come down recently with the housing correction that we've gone through. It does look like they're poised to start going back up. So if you are moving here, you're probably going to want to make sure you have a well-paying job lined up, or you're already work remote, so you don't have to worry too much about the lower wages that you're going to have here in Idaho. So number 5 pro related to that is, if you're moving here though with a higher wage job, is the overall affordability of Idaho. You're going to get so much more house for your money. So if you're buying a home here in Idaho, in the Boise and Treasure Valley area, now your mortgage payment could end up being around $3,000 to $4,000 a month, but the type of home you're going to get for that is so much better than probably what you're getting or already have in Idaho. It makes it a great way for you to get into a home if you're a first-time buyer, or just upgrade your lifestyle, or if you're retiring, downgrade into a lower cost home and have an amazing experience, an amazing home here in Idaho that you're not going to have somewhere else. Now, some of the big cost savings are going to come in the form of utilities and property taxes. So property taxes range here from around 0.4% up to about 1%, depending on the area you're in. There's also a homeowner's exemption that allows you to take about $125,000 off the assessed value of your home. So for instance, my effective tax rate right now is just 0.6%. So if you're coming from California, you're likely at a minimum of 1%, likely higher. In San Diego is 1.22% starting property tax with the local bond measures. And of course, that rises every single year. Property taxes actually went down a little bit here in Idaho this past year. So you're probably going to be saving money. My property tax bill was $1,850 for this past year. Again, with utilities, you're going to be saving a lot of money. My utility bill for gas and electric is only about $150 per month combined. In the summertime, electric bill can go up to around $200, but then my gas bill is about $20. In fact, I got a notification recently that my gas bill was being cut by 20% because of savings that the utility had experienced. Finally, I'm going to throw one more pro in there to make that number 6, and that is low gun restrictions. It is so easy to purchase a firearm here. You can walk in, instant background check, and purchase a firearm right there on the spot. No 10-day waiting period. So much easier to buy a firearm. And also we have open carry and concealed carry without requiring a concealed carry weapons permit. So it is a constitutional carry state, so people absolutely love it for this. Do everyone carry all the time? Absolutely not. Are you going to see people open carrying all the time? Actually, likely very rarely. More than likely, they're going to be concealed carrying. So people love Idaho for that as well. So if you are looking to make the move here to Idaho, again, I moved here from San Diego, California, and I absolutely love helping people just like you and you and you make the move here to Idaho. I absolutely love it. Whether you're 9 days, 90 days, or even 2 years out, reach out to me via phone, text, or email. Contact information is on the screen and in the description below. And I'd love to jump on a Zoom call with you and figure out the exact plan to help you make the smooth move here to Idaho. I look forward to seeing you on the next video. If you're looking to explore more about Boise, Idaho, and the Treasure Valley, just watch this video where we dive in deeper. I'll see you on that video.